Hello, today I want to show you how to make a non-traditional plate or platter form. Or platter, or I suppose you can make a tray with it as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some extra clay that I have here, and I'm going to make a coil mold for my plate. So I'm going to make this probably in several pieces. I can either roll the coil in my hand, or I can roll it on the table, and it's going to be about 1 inch in diameter. In this case, I'm going to make a smaller bird shape. So I'm just starting with the head and working towards the tail. And this, I'm thinking more of like a tray for cream and sugar, but I'll also show you a bigger platter animal head as well. This is just to show you how to make the actual mold. So the great part about this is you can make any shape you want. It could be an oval, it could be a person, whatever you want. And you can use this several times. So I'm just going to bring this around and just a little bit more clay. And the one thing I want to tell you about this is that you can't just make a coil and stick it on there. You actually have to refine the coil a bit. You have to make sure that this inside part is nice and smooth, because eventually you're going to be putting a slab in there and you don't want it to leave ugly marks on the underside of your plate or platter or a tray. So just a lot less cleanup if you're careful the first time. Oh, this is hard. Let's see. All right. So now I've got this attached on, and I don't mind if it sticks down to this bat, because that'll actually work in my favor. And now what I'm doing is using my rib to angle that and smooth that, and then making kind of an edge for a rim on this this form. And I could make this deeper, for a lot deeper if I wanted to, for more of a tray form that would hold something in. I'm holding this at an angle, my rib, and smoothing at an angle until this is really nice and refined. And then I come back in even with sponge in a little bit. All right. So this takes some time to really refine and make it as smooth and nice as possible to really work as a mold. And then I have to let it set up until at least leather hard, maybe just a little drier if I want to use it right away. All right, so the great part about this is I can recycle this and make more clay out of it and make a different shape, and I can continue to make different shapes. If I really want to keep it around, I can bisque fire it, but I like to change these quite often. And they're pretty easy to make. And I'm not really wasting clay if I recycle it. All right, so that's the start of my bird shape. And now I have a fox head shape all ready to go. And I'm going to roll out a slab for that right now. So I'm going to cut this clay. And I think when I first learned how to do this technique, I was really taken with it, because to me it felt like, for me at that time as a sculptor, I felt like it was a way for me to be able to make functional things that were more figurative. So now I'm rolling this slab starting with the center and moving out. And it's going to be a kind of a bigger slab. So sometimes I'll throw that slab out at an angle and get it moving a little bit more. And this is probably more clay than I needed, but I think it's always better to have too much than too little. And I'm going to get this down to right around 1/4 of an inch thick. All right. This is looking pretty good. Not too thick, not too thin. You all know that if you make plates and platters too thin, they sometimes have a tendency to crack. All right, this looks pretty good in thickness. So I'm going to use my red rib and I'm going to smooth that out. And I'm actually going to cut some of the extra clay off the side where it's gotten a little thin and frail. All right. Now, let's bring this in just a little bit closer. And I'm going to take that slab and drape that over this mold. And I'm going to gently, just with my hand, tap that in. There's the ear, the other ear, and then the nose. And then I'm going to come back in with my sponge and start working on that, kind of getting that smoothed out. All right, this is a good start. And I want to compress that inside a lot. We compress it so that the particles become closer together and they do not want to crack as much. So far I've had a lot of luck if I compress really well. All right. I'll probably go through this quite a few more times and get that really nice and condensed. Now I'm going to come back in with my needle tool and take away some of this clay. I'll do more refining once this sets up, but I don't need all of this clay being recycled or sitting there waiting to be dry recycled. I can recycle it now, re-wedge it, and use it. All right, so this is a good start. I'm going to come back in with this sponge. You can see that I'm wanting to do a lot of refining, as much refining as I can do before it dries, so that it's less that I have to do later. So I'm taking my damp sponge to that, even though I'm going to probably take some of that off, and I'm going to lift this slightly so it's not so flat, so I can get under it. It doesn't have an edge down there. And my mold underneath this has been drying for several days. All right, that's coming up now. Let me get under that again. Smooth that, and we'll come back in another, probably tomorrow, and we can add a foot on. So I could leave it flat, I suppose, but I like to have a foot. And I can flip this and show you how to do that tomorrow once this sets up a bit. Remember that depending on where you live and the weather, the humidity, it may dry faster or slower, and you need to really monitor it and cover it up if it starts getting dry. But you should put that foot on at leather hard. So leather hard means that, of course, you can move the clay on the surface, but it is a lot stiffer, and you can really work on that. That's the same time as you would add a handle to a cup, is leather hard. So kind of remember that. Now this edge I know is raggy, but we're gonna fix that some more. The big thing was just getting underneath it and fixing that. All right, so come back tomorrow. We'll work on the fox head platter for a foot. See you then.